So it's been a little while since I was able to say this last, but there's some good news for XDefiant. What we're talking about today isn't so much pertaining directly to any content update, any balancing change, any bug fixes, nothing like that, but rather good news for the future as a whole for XDefiant, not just one specific area, not one specific bug fix or something like that. So as we go along, drop your thoughts down below on what you think of this news for XDefiant. What do you think it'll mean for the future and maybe anything in between? As we go along, drop your thoughts down below and make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed the video or find it at all insightful, and subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and would like to stay up to date with all things XDefiant, Black Ops 6, and other FPS content. A lot still on the horizon that I think you guys will enjoy, so I'd love to have you in the community. Finally, only if you'd like to, you can use code Espresso in the in-game shop or the Battle Pass in XDefiant to support the channel a little further, but honestly, no sweat if not, the option's just there. But anyways, let's get into it. So, the information for today's discussion comes, well, directly from Ubisoft as a publisher. Not Ubisoft San Francisco, the team developing XDefiant, but the actual publisher themselves. Yesterday, Ubisoft published its first quarter report for the 2024 sales figures, a standard for publishers and really any large company with shareholders. But the whole report, while not the biggest financial report I've ever seen, it was something that there's still a lot of the boring, nitty-gritty, just number-focused stuff. They also focused a lot about the upcoming projects of Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed. Hoping both of those are good. Honestly, very excited to get some hands-on play with both those and a few more story-driven games here upcoming, but that's not the focus of this video. But tucked away in that discussion about their IP in the last quarter, there was the mention of XDefiant, where it read on two instances, and I quote, "The quarter notably saw the launch of XDefiant. That is off to an encouraging start as we continue to grow the audience at a steady pace and plan a quarterly roadmap of content that will allow us to firmly establish the game over time." And they also said, XDefiant launched its Season 0 on May 21st and is off to an encouraging start. The game, that top viewership charts, acquired more than 10 million players within the first 2 weeks, with players praising the thrilling, fast-paced gameplay and the map variety. 2 additional game modes have been added since launch: Team Deathmatch by popular demand, and Capture the Flag. The game outperformed expectations thanks to acquisition and strong average revenue per session day. Beyond Q1, the launch of Season 1 on July 2nd marks the beginning of the quarterly roadmap of content updates for the game. These will bring additional factions inspired by iconic Ubisoft franchises, maps, weapons, and game modes, as well as progressively deploy new engagement features. So, plain and simple, that's the good news. The game outperformed expectations. Not just lived up to, not fell short of, but outperformed those expectations that Ubisoft ended up having for the game. But why exactly is that good news? Well, exceeding those expectations in a fiscal year so far means that we're likely going to see further support from a publisher here. We're going to see further support for the game. Ubisoft, whether you like it or not, is kind of notorious for stopping support of games, so to see exceeding expectations and to see this sort of faith in the game itself is a great sign that interest is going to keep it alive for sure, not only communally, but also from a developer perspective as well. If it's exceeding expectations, that means that it'll have the support of the publisher, financially backing the studio, meaning people are employed for longer, and the free-to-play game that we're enjoying right now can continue to be what it is that we're enjoying right now. Obviously, that's been the goal of the game since the public reveal. I mean, no developer goes in and is like, I'm gonna make this game for 6 months tops. Nobody does that. I mean, that's insane. But you can say one thing, but actually obtaining that goal, especially in the gaming landscape right now, is tough to do. It's a tall task no matter who it is. Game dev is an insanely volatile business, especially when big money is involved, because if there is no return on investment, the plug on that project's getting pulled. It wasn't until I became friends with some devs and talked about the industry more regularly that I realized, holy hell, so many games never even reach the public in the first place to let the game's performance dictate its future, and those that do, they're still under heavy scrutiny. So to hear that Ubisoft is proud of the game, to me, secures a good bit of future runway here. Obviously, we can't start thinking about year 2, year 3, and beyond. I mean, we already know that we're guaranteed at least to have 4 seasons in XDefiant's first year, lasting that first year based off the founders' editions of the game, but with content that has been in the files that point towards year 2 and further out past that 12-month mark, it was obviously always in the plans, but I think now the runway just got extended for that to actually happen and keep going outwards. So as it stands thus far, while following this saga of good news since the game's launch, it seems like we're in good hands here. It seems like the messaging has been consistent and constant from Ubisoft about the project, and while players may have dropped off a little bit, I mean, they always do after a game's launch window. Call of Duty is the largest game in the world, and 2 months after the game launches, you'll be seeing people saying the game's dead. Like, it happens with every game, even the biggest out there. So even though that's the case, it still seems like it's doing well enough for the publisher to have faith fully in the game. So what can happen in the future to help bolster that player count, or I guess keep it progressively stable, if that's the probably best word to put it at, because you're obviously always going to lose players over time. You'll gain it back at sort of seasonal launches and everything like that. But I mean, how can you make this a sort of broader appeal at that point? In terms of platform availability, I think you should put it on Steam. It was recently added on Epic Games and can be launched and played from there, which frankly is such a better launcher than Ubisoft Connect. Like, I like a lot of the games that I've played through Ubisoft, but it might be my least favorite PC launcher ever. Steam being the most used launcher and storefront, it would just make so much more sense to put it on there and also help the PC player count out by just being simply accessible. Also, you gotta work on that anti-cheat further. I think I might be the luckiest dude alive because I feel like I've personally still never seen a cheater, but I've seen so many clips for sure that they do exist, and I'm not denying that at all. But with it being a free-to-play game, there's no massive hurdles to stop a cheater from just jumping onto another account and picking right up where they left off. So fingers crossed, anti-cheat is also something that's worked on that can, again, help bolster the player count and the reception of this game even further. Continued support obviously is a huge thing. I don't know if worry is the best word to put it, but I'm hoping that content rollout doesn't hinder anything in regards to the game's performance or perception. I mean, we do only have, for the rest of Season 1, like 2 maps left. We have Daytona and Rockefeller. Rockefeller was actually playable for that first day of Season 1 as well. So for a second, it kind of seemed like for the course of 2 months, you only had 1 map coming. So that might be something that poses a problem here if there's no like worthwhile grinds or anything that players can jump into, that there's no updates beyond that. So we'll obviously see how that works out in time. But then, of course, you do have things gameplay related as well. Netcode still needs constant work. Fixing issues in a timely manner needs to be something that's a top priority. It does seem like the team at XDefiant are at least pushing out emergency updates when possible for existing issues. And mind you, the team is much smaller than, say, the scale of like Call of Duty's development teams. But even COD historically hasn't pushed out emergency updates in favor of just rolling out multiple levels of fixes all at one time, as opposed to like 1 to 2 to 3 updates at a time. So that's something that I do give mad props to XDefiant for. Just when there's a problem, you have a fix, pushing it out, not trying to wait as a sort of like bureaucracy, I guess, of like how updates are rolled out. But anyways, that's where we're at. It seems like things are still going strong in regards to the reception of XDefiant. Again, even though the player numbers may not be as high as they were at launch. I'm curious to see if this is probably not going to be something we see until like months down the line. If this does any sort of actual, I don't know if the word damage to competitors is what I'm looking for, but like if this is something that seeing the positive reception of XDefiant, seeing large publishers like Ubisoft acknowledging that it has been a success by their metrics and their standards, I'm curious to see if some of the like staples of XDefiant end up working their way into other games, i.e. the discussion of maybe reeling back skill-based matchmaking a bit in COD. I kind of feel like Activision and Xbox probably aren't going to take that gamble just yet, but I mean, I'd be all for it if they did. Anyways, though, that is where we're at. Just wanted to fill you guys in on some recent updates for the sort of XDefiant world as a whole, not necessarily in-game, but seems like if you're enjoying XDefiant, you're not alone. So that's where we're going to wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think this is good news? Not so much. Don't really care. Whatever the case, drop your thoughts below. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things XDefiant, Black Ops 6, and more FPS coverage here on the channel. I'd love to have in the community. And finally, again, you can use code Espresso in the in-game shop or on the Battle Pass if you'd like to, but no worries if not. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care, and peace.